Back to Steiny and Guru on 95.7 The Game.
All righty, on the line, Audacy NFL insider Ross Tucker. Insider calls are presented by BetQL. Download the free BetQL app right now and get instant access to the industry's most advanced suite of sports betting tools right at your fingertips. Ross, what's going on? Here's where I'm going to start, my friend. Last couple weeks, the 49ers offense has really started to click, and common denominator, no Trent Williams. Is this a case of addition by subtraction?
Steiny, you crack me up, man. What did he do to you? You hate him.
No, I don't. Sometimes I can be a contrarian. That's all.
No, you know what? I do think I understand what the point.
No, I'm messing around totally, by the way. But go ahead.
No, I know, but I think there is something to be said for how much of a difference does one lineman in this case make, and I think a lot of the credit goes to the coaching staff because they're basically on their third left tackle now, right?
Yeah, man,
it's impressive. Very impressive. But a lot of that, you can, no matter what your personnel is week to week, that's what makes football so interesting, right? Like every week, each team has their own injuries they have to deal with. Like this week, the Niners don't have Emmanuel Mosley. I don't know if they'll have Bosa or not. And it sort of changes what you do. It changes how your strategy is for the game. They spent all day Monday and Tuesday coming up with a plan, and they got to be like, well, we probably don't have this guy. So how does that affect this coverage, and how does it affect this? It's really, I just feel like as opposed to some of these other sports, there's just a lot of strategy that goes into it and a lot of trying to make sure you're putting your team in the best chance to succeed against the opponent that week.
Ross, always good to talk to you, man. I know we're 5 weeks in, and every week is its own season, and here I am telling Steiny and the listeners, when I watch the Cowboys defense and I watch the Niners defense, I know this, Ross, and I feel this to my heart. These are the two best defenses in the NFL. Now, something can happen and things can change, and I think of the Dallas Cowboys D-line. Parsons has DeMarcus Lawrence. I don't know if Bosa has enough help, but if I were to ask you how you played the game, how would you determine which defense you would take? Well, how would you answer that?
It's a good question. They're both playing extremely well. You're right. I would probably lean Dallas right now because of the Mosley injury. I think that hurt. I think Dallas is healthier on the defensive side of the ball than is the Niners. One guy can make a decent difference when they're a pretty good player like that. But you're right. I mean, they're both playing extremely well on that side of the ball. I think the Eagles' defense is a little bit better than they're getting credit for. But I do think Dallas and San Francisco have been lights out.
Ross Tucker joining us on 95.7 The Game. Ross, we talked a lot before you came on about the Kansas City Las Vegas game, and here's where I'm at. Okay, KC scores to make it 30-23 with 7.5 left. Andy Reid goes for 2. As he goes for 2, I'm thinking I wouldn't do that, but I can see kind of what he's going for. He can put the game away, essentially, is what he's thinking. They miss. Here come the Raiders, whatever. To me, there's a difference between a wrong decision and a wrong hunch. And I just, what was your call on that one?
I thought it was absolutely the right decision. Absolutely.
Wow.
Because
I can see both sides, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can make an argument, right, that if you just kick the extra point, you go up by 8, they got to score a touchdown and they got to hit the 2-point conversion. But even if they do that, then they tie and you keep going. I'd rather go for 2, try to make it a 9-point game and go up 2 scores. Because the reality is, if you don't get it, like they didn't, the other team, in a lot of instances, is just going to kick the extra point to tie it anyway. So it didn't really hurt you that much.
Right.
I've heard people explain the math. You can go either way on that one. I like the idea of trying to make it a 2-score game and taking your chances with, okay, maybe they do go for 2. Then they have to get it. And by the way, even if the Raiders do go for 2, then we have enough time to get a field goal, and we have 4 downs to get it because we're down by 1.
Ross, I went the other way with that because I felt like the 2-point conversion in my mind is another score in itself. So you were up 2 scores, but I hear you. I want to ask you about Jimmy Garoppolo because, again, it's no shocker. This guy's played in the Super Bowl and 2 NFC championship games, and I'm getting ahead of myself, Ross, but let's just say the Niners go on to get back to the NFC championship game. I just asked Matt, how could the Niners brass, especially with Trey getting back and rehabbing, how would you be so proud to where you wouldn't approach him about coming back as a Niner quarterback? Now, if he says, I want to come back, that's a different story. But my God, Ross, I'm like, I would send him something in the mail, a letter like, this works. We need you.
Yeah, I don't think there should be any predetermined notions now about what happens at the quarterback position in San Francisco, because I think it's going to play out the rest of this year. If Jimmy keeps playing well, they keep winning, they get back to NFC Championship or further, I think you stick with them, and I think maybe you move on from Trey Lance. I mean, Trey Lance hasn't proven that he can play well or stay healthy. I mean, I think it would be really risky to move on from Jimmy at that point. I don't know how you do that to the locker room if you go to back-to-back NFC Championship games and then move on from a guy for a kid that's a total unknown at this point.
Yeah, Ross Tucker joined us on 95.7. Yeah, the way I would look at that, Ross, if I were the Niners even, is, you know what? That decision's going to make itself. Let's just kind of see what happens. Hey, I got to ask you this, Ross. Obviously, we're out here in the Bay with the Golden State Warriors flagship. Can I assume you saw the Draymond Green video?
I did, yeah. I did.
Just, you were a professional athlete inside a professional NFL locker room. When you saw the video, what did you think?
It's interesting because the fact that I don't envision there being that many fights in basketball and not having a helmet on, for whatever reason, makes me view it a little bit differently. Because I had a situation where I got in a fight with LeVar Arrington, and I thought I was getting the better of it. Next thing I know, he got my helmet off, and he swung it at me as hard as he could. If it would have hit me in the head, I would have died. And we didn't really have that much of an issue afterwards. I mean, a couple guys told him it was unacceptable, but we just kind of moved on because fights are like somewhat common in football.
Right.
I don't know what it's like in basketball, and it definitely looked different. I got to tell you, though, the Poole kid was the first one to make physical contact.
Oh,
right?
man.
It looks to me like Draymond got in his face, Poole pushed him, and then Draymond hit him. What I don't really understand, because I don't follow it that closely, have we ever gotten clarity on what the issue was in the first place? Somebody was saying that they didn't like Poole's jokes about his last name or something?
Conventional wisdom out here is that Jordan Poole's pretty cocky. He's a pretty cocky player, got his first ring last year. Draymond's kind of the old school. Poole's about to get paid, and I think Draymond is trying to kind of send a message that, look, you haven't arrived yet, kid. Something like that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that was a heck of a punch. And I'm curious to see what ends up happening with it.
Yeah,
they haven't found out who leaked it yet, right?
Nope. Yeah, no, you're right.
So Ross, let me ask you this, because LeVar Arrington, he's still a big boy, so I'm glad he didn't connect with that one. If you're Jordan Poole, and I'm with you because this is not football, this is not the NHL, Ross, can you honestly put yourself in his shoes and say, you know what, Goo, I could come back and be his teammate? Because I've told the listeners in Steiny, and I don't want this to happen, but I mean it, I could never come back from that. I'm a meme. All these, they're having fun with it. I just wouldn't want to look at him anymore. How do you see it?
It's a really good question. I'm probably the wrong person to ask because I would just be trying to figure out how I could pop him back real bad. Like I have a streak in me that you guys don't know, but all I could think about is how I would get him back, which is probably not the right way to go about it, but that's just my mentality. I think it depends on what the organization, the other guys, especially what Draymond say to him. If Draymond has no remorse, then it's an issue. If Draymond apologizes, I think it can actually bring them closer together. Whatever. I don't know what it's like in life, but when you get in a fight with somebody, somehow you're like boys after that.
Right.
But Ross, Steiny says this. He says that wasn't. I'm sorry, Steiny. He says that wasn't a fight.
I don't know. It was kind of a fight. Poole pushed him.
Yeah.
Draymond.
My wife says the same thing.
Would it be a fight if Draymond was a worse puncher? I don't know.
Man,
the fact that they're teammates and Draymond did it I don't know. It's a fascinating debate out here. I know that, Ross.
Yeah, it is. I think it is fascinating. And we'll see how it sorts itself out. But I think what Guru's saying is right. Things won't be the same between those two guys.
Man.
It'll either be better because they talked it out and they got it out and they move on stronger together through conflict, or it'll be worse, like Guru said.
Right. Hey, Ross, thanks as always. Really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. See you, dude.